There is someone in front of you demanding answers, twisting your words, questioning your truth. Every instinct inside you wants to react, to argue, to defend, to explain. But in that exact moment, you are standing at the edge of a silent loss, not the loss of the argument, but the loss of your peace. Your heartbeat rises, your thoughts begin to race, you feel the urge to prove yourself, to protect your dignity, to make them finally see who you truly are. And yet, the more you prepare to speak, the more you feel your calm slipping away. The Buddha faced insults many times, yet often he chose silence, not because he had no wisdom, but because he knew that some battles only steal your energy. Today you will learn why silence is not weakness. It is power. 1. Arguing is often a battle of egos, not truth. Most arguments in daily life are not really about discovering what is right or wrong. They are about protecting how we see ourselves. When someone challenges our opinion, our mind quickly feels threatened, as if our identity is under attack. Instead of calmly thinking, we react emotionally. We raise our voice, interrupt others, and try to prove that we are correct. At that moment, the goal is no longer understanding the truth. The goal becomes winning. If you observe closely, you will notice that during arguments, many people do not truly listen. They are simply waiting for their turn to speak. While the other person is talking, their mind is already preparing counter-arguments, examples, or harsh words. This defensive state closes the door to real communication. It turns a simple disagreement into a mental battlefield where both sides are trying to dominate rather than connect. Buddhist wisdom explains that this behavior is driven by the ego. The ego constantly seeks validation and control. It wants to feel superior, secure, and respected. When two strong egos collide, the situation becomes tense very quickly. Voices become louder, emotions become stronger, and peace disappears. Even if one person finally wins the argument, the victory is often empty. The mind feels disturbed, the heart feels heavy, and relationships may suffer long after the conversation ends. True wisdom lies in recognizing the moment when a discussion stops being productive. Not every conversation is meant to be solved. Some people are not ready to understand. Some situations require patience instead of confrontation. Choosing to step back from unnecessary arguments is not a sign of weakness or surrender. It is a conscious decision to protect your inner calm and emotional balance. When you choose peace over pride, you begin to experience a deeper kind of strength. You realize that your self-worth does not depend on proving others wrong. You learn that silence can sometimes communicate more maturity than 1,000 words. The person who remains calm in the middle of chaos shows real control over their mind. In many situations, the silent person in a noisy conflict is not powerless, they are powerful. They understand that true strength is not about dominating others, but about mastering their own reactions. 2. Defending yourself too much makes you emotionally dependent. Many people feel a strong urge to defend themselves whenever they are misunderstood, criticized, or judged. It almost becomes an automatic reaction. The moment someone questions their choices, their personality, or their intentions, they start explaining every detail, trying to prove that they are right and the other person is wrong. At first, this may seem natural, even necessary. But over time, constantly defending yourself can quietly make you emotionally dependent on how others see you. When you feel the need to justify your actions again and again, it often means your peace is tied to other people's approval. You begin to believe that unless others understand you, you cannot feel calm. Unless they accept your reasons, you cannot feel confident. This creates an invisible chain around your mind. Your happiness starts depending on something you cannot fully control: the opinions of others. Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering increases when we attach our identity to external validation. The more we try to control how we are perceived, the more anxious and restless we become. You may notice that even after defending yourself perfectly, some people still refuse to understand. Some may continue to judge, criticize, or misunderstand you. This can make you feel frustrated and exhausted, as if you are running in circles without reaching peace. True inner strength grows when you develop clarity about who you are without needing constant confirmation from the outside world. When you deeply understand your intentions and values, you no longer feel the urgency to explain yourself to everyone. You start realizing that not every opinion deserves a response, and not every misunderstanding needs correction. Imagine a mountain standing quietly under changing weather. Sometimes clouds cover it, sometimes storms hit it, and sometimes sunlight shines on it. Yet the mountain does not defend its existence. It does not try to convince the sky of its strength. It simply remains stable. In the same way, when you stop over-defending yourself, you begin to stand firmly in your own truth. This does not mean you should never speak or clarify important matters. It means choosing wisely when your words are truly needed. By reducing unnecessary defense, you protect your emotional energy and become less affected by passing judgments. Gradually, you discover a powerful freedom, the freedom to live according to your inner understanding rather than constantly seeking approval from others. 3. Explaining yourself to the wrong people drains your life energy. In life, there are moments when you feel a strong need to explain your decisions, your feelings, and your path to others. You want them to understand why you chose a certain direction, why you changed, or why you refused something. This desire to be understood is very human. We all want connection and acceptance. But problems begin when you keep explaining yourself to people who are not truly willing to listen. Some people do not listen to understand, they listen to judge. No matter how clearly you speak, they twist your words according to their own beliefs. No matter how calmly you explain, they remain fixed in their opinions. When you continue trying to convince such minds, you slowly start losing your emotional strength. You repeat the same explanations again and again, hoping that this time they will finally see your truth. But instead of clarity, you feel deeper frustration and exhaustion. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of wise communication. This means speaking only when your words can bring understanding, kindness, or meaningful change. When the situation does not allow this, silence becomes the wiser choice. Not every person has the capacity or openness to understand your journey. Sometimes their own fears, insecurities, or limited perspectives prevent them from seeing beyond their assumptions. Constantly explaining yourself in such situations is like pouring water into a closed container. No matter how much you give, nothing truly enters. Over time, this drains your mental and emotional energy. You may begin to doubt yourself, feel misunderstood, or even question your own decisions. This is how unnecessary explanations can slowly weaken your confidence. Learning to protect your inner world is an important step toward emotional maturity. Your thoughts, dreams, and personal growth are not always meant to be shared with everyone. Just as a seed needs the right soil to grow, your truth needs the right environment to be understood. Choosing silence with the wrong audience does not mean you are hiding or being dishonest. It means you are respecting your own peace. When you stop trying to explain yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you, a surprising sense of relief appears. Your mind becomes lighter, your energy becomes more focused. You begin to invest your words where they truly matter with people who listen with empathy and openness. In this way, silence becomes a form of self-respect. It protects your dignity, preserves your strength, and allows you to move forward without carrying the heavy burden of constant justification. 4. Silence allows truth to reveal itself naturally. One of the most difficult things for the human mind is to remain calm when it feels misunderstood. When someone questions your character, spreads false assumptions, or judges your actions without knowing the full story, an intense urge arises within you. You feel the need to immediately correct them, to defend your truth, and to force clarity into the situation. This reaction feels natural because the mind is conditioned to protect its image. However, Buddhist wisdom teaches that rushing to prove yourself can sometimes create more confusion than peace. Life has its own timing. Truth has its own way of unfolding. When you constantly react, argue, or explain, you may unknowingly interrupt the natural process through which reality becomes visible. In many situations, time itself becomes the greatest teacher. People observe patterns, they notice consistency, they witness actions. Slowly, without dramatic confrontation, understanding begins to grow. What was once hidden becomes obvious. What was once doubted becomes clear. Silence plays a powerful role in this process. Silence does not mean suppression or weakness. It means trusting that reality does not need constant defense. When you remain calm instead of reacting impulsively, you create space for situations to mature. You allow people to reflect. You allow emotions to settle. You allow facts to speak through actions rather than through heated words. In Buddhist teachings, patience is considered a form of strength. It is not passive waiting. It is conscious endurance. It is the ability to stay centered while circumstances change. When you practice silence during conflict, you are not escaping the truth. You are giving truth the opportunity to surface in a natural and undeniable way. This approach reduces unnecessary drama and prevents the mind from becoming trapped in cycles of anger and justification. Think about how muddy water becomes clear when left undisturbed. If you keep stirring it, it remains cloudy. But when you allow it to rest, the dirt settles on its own, and the water becomes transparent. The same principle applies to misunderstandings and conflicts. Constant reactions stir emotional mud. Calm silence allows clarity to return. Another important aspect of silence is that it strengthens your inner observation. When you are not busy defending yourself, you can see the situation more objectively. You can notice whether the criticism holds any truth. You can learn from the experience instead of only resisting it. This transforms challenges into opportunities for growth. Instead of becoming a victim of misunderstanding, you become a student of life. Over time, people also begin to notice your stability. When you do not react impulsively, your presence becomes more grounded and trustworthy. Others may initially misinterpret your silence as weakness, but eventually they recognize it as composure. Your calmness becomes a silent message that you are not easily shaken by temporary opinions or emotional storms. It is also important to understand that not every truth needs immediate recognition. Some realizations require distance and time. When you trust this process, you free yourself from the exhausting need to control how quickly others understand you. You focus instead on living authentically and consistently. Actions begin to speak louder than explanations. Character becomes more convincing than arguments. In this way, silence becomes a form of wisdom. It reflects confidence in the natural flow of life. It shows that you are not desperate for validation or approval. You understand that clarity cannot always be forced. Sometimes it must be allowed. When you embrace this perspective, you experience a deep sense of relief. Your mind becomes quieter. Your reactions become slower. Your energy becomes more focused on meaningful growth rather than endless defense. Eventually, truth reveals itself not because you fought for it aggressively, but because you lived it patiently. And when truth finally becomes visible, it carries a power that no argument could ever create. 5. Inner peace is more valuable than being right. In everyday life, many people unknowingly sacrifice their inner peace just to prove that they are correct. A simple disagreement can turn into a long mental struggle. Even after the conversation ends, the mind keeps replaying every word. You start thinking about what you should have said, how you could have responded better, and how unfair the situation was. Hours pass. Sometimes days pass. Yet the argument continues inside your head like an unfinished battle. This is how the desire to be right slowly steals your calmness. Buddhist teachings explain that attachment to being right is another subtle form of suffering. The ego feels threatened when someone challenges our views, so it pushes us to defend our position at any cost. It tells us that winning the argument will restore our dignity. But in reality, this victory often comes with hidden losses. You may win the debate, but lose your emotional balance. You may prove your point, but damage the harmony of a relationship. You may silence the other person, but create noise inside your own mind. Inner peace is a fragile and precious state. It allows you to think clearly, act wisely, and live with emotional stability. When you constantly engage in conflicts just to establish superiority, you disturb this peaceful state. Your mind becomes restless, your body feels tense, your heart carries subtle resentment. Over time, these small disturbances accumulate and create deeper stress and dissatisfaction. It is important to ask yourself a simple question: what truly matters more, being right or being at peace? Many arguments are about opinions, perspectives, or misunderstandings that will lose importance with time, but the impact on your mind can remain much longer. When you learn to step back from unnecessary confrontations, you begin to understand that protecting your mental clarity is more valuable than winning temporary battles. Buddhism encourages the practice of non-attachment, not only to material things, but also to ideas and viewpoints. This does not mean you stop having opinions. It means you stop clinging to them so tightly that they control your emotions. You develop the flexibility to listen, to reflect, and sometimes even to let go of the need to prove yourself. This flexibility creates emotional freedom. Imagine carrying a heavy stone just to show others how strong you are. For a short time, you may feel proud, but eventually the weight will exhaust you. In the same way, constantly trying to prove your correctness becomes a burden on the mind. When you finally put down this burden, you feel lighter. You breathe more easily. Your thoughts become calmer. Another powerful realization is that not every person is ready to understand your perspective. Some minds are shaped by different experiences, fears, or beliefs. Trying to force agreement can create resistance rather than clarity. By choosing peace over pride, you show maturity. You recognize that harmony is often more meaningful than dominance. This does not mean you should avoid standing up for important values or truths. There are moments when speaking firmly is necessary. However, wisdom lies in distinguishing between meaningful confrontation and ego-driven conflict. When the purpose of an argument is only to satisfy pride, silence becomes the wiser path. As you practice this approach, a transformation begins within you. Your reactions slow down, your patience grows, you start observing situations with greater awareness. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. This shift not only protects your inner peace, but also improves the quality of your relationships. People feel safer around someone who values calm understanding over constant debate. Over time, you realize that true strength is not measured by how many arguments you win. It is measured by how stable your mind remains in challenging situations. A peaceful mind can make better decisions, maintain healthier connections, and experience deeper happiness. When you stop fighting every battle to prove that you are right, you discover a quiet power. It is the power of self-control. It is the power of emotional intelligence. It is the power of choosing serenity even when conflict is possible, and in this state of calm awareness, life begins to feel less heavy and more meaningful. 6. Silence develops emotional mastery. In most situations, reacting is easy. When someone criticizes you, your mind quickly produces defensive thoughts. When someone speaks harshly, anger rises almost instantly. Words come to your lips without effort. This kind of reaction feels natural because it is driven by habit and emotion. However, remaining silent in such moments is not easy. It requires awareness, patience, and deep inner strength. This is why Buddhism considers silence not as weakness, but as a powerful form of emotional mastery. Emotional mastery means having the ability to observe your feelings without becoming controlled by them. Anger, frustration, fear, and insecurity are natural human experiences. The problem is not that these emotions arise. The problem is when they take over your actions and decisions. When you react impulsively, you give your emotions complete authority over your behavior. You say things you later regret. You create conflicts that could have been avoided. You lose clarity in moments when calm thinking was needed. Silence creates a pause between feeling and reacting. In that pause, awareness begins to grow. You start noticing the sensations in your body, the speed of your thoughts, and the intensity of your emotions. Instead of immediately responding, you allow yourself to breathe and observe. This small gap is incredibly powerful. It prevents temporary emotions from turning into permanent consequences. Buddhist meditation practices are built around this principle. Practitioners learn to sit quietly and watch their thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. They realize that emotions are not permanent truths. They are passing experiences. When you practice silence during difficult interactions, you are applying this same wisdom in real life. You are training your mind to stay stable even when external situations are unstable. Over time, this practice strengthens your self-control. You become less reactive and more reflective. You begin to understand that not every comment deserves a response, and not every provocation requires engagement. This understanding protects your mental energy. Instead of being drained by every disagreement, you conserve your strength for meaningful goals and positive growth. Another important benefit of silence is that it helps you see situations more clearly. When you react immediately, your vision becomes narrow. You focus only on defending yourself or attacking the other person. But when you remain silent and calm, your perspective expands. You start noticing hidden motivations, misunderstandings, or emotional pain in others. This deeper understanding allows you to respond with wisdom rather than aggression. Silence also builds resilience. People who master their reactions are not easily disturbed by criticism or negativity. Their confidence comes from within, not from constant external approval. They develop the ability to remain centered in stressful environments. This emotional stability becomes a quiet strength that others can feel, even without words. At first, practicing silence may feel uncomfortable. You might worry that people will think you are weak or that they will misunderstand your quietness. But with time, you will notice a different result. Your calm presence begins to command respect. Others realize that you do not react impulsively or engage in unnecessary drama. Your silence becomes a signal of maturity and self-awareness. This does not mean suppressing your feelings or avoiding communication completely. Emotional mastery is not about hiding emotions. It is about understanding them. There are moments when speaking is necessary and helpful. The key is choosing the right time, the right tone, and the right intention. When words come from clarity rather than from emotional turbulence, they carry more impact and meaning. As you continue practicing silence, you start experiencing a deeper connection with yourself. You become more aware of your inner patterns, your triggers, and your strengths. This self-knowledge allows you to grow consciously rather than react automatically. You realize that true power is not in controlling others, but in mastering your own mind. Gradually, silence transforms from a forced discipline into a natural state of balance. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself in every situation. You trust your ability to remain calm even when others are not. This trust creates a sense of freedom. You move through life with greater patience, greater clarity, and greater emotional stability. In this way, silence becomes more than just the absence of words. It becomes a practice of awareness, a training of the mind, and a path toward inner strength. Through silence, you learn that emotional mastery is not about avoiding life's challenges, but about facing them with a steady and peaceful heart. 7. Your life becomes lighter when you stop fighting every battle. Many people live as if life is a continuous battlefield. Every disagreement feels like a threat. Every criticism feels like an attack. Every misunderstanding feels like something that must be corrected immediately. This constant state of mental combat slowly becomes exhausting. The mind remains tense, the heart feels heavy, and even small situations begin to feel overwhelming. Without realizing it, a person starts carrying emotional burdens that were never truly necessary. Buddhist wisdom teaches that a large part of human suffering comes not from life itself, but from the resistance we create within our own minds. When you try to fight every opinion, control every outcome, and correct every misunderstanding, you are creating unnecessary struggles. It is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. The effort is endless, and the frustration keeps growing. Life becomes complicated not because it is naturally harsh, but because the mind refuses to let go of minor conflicts. When you begin to choose your battles wisely, a surprising transformation takes place. You start noticing how much energy you were wasting on situations that did not truly matter. Arguments that once felt urgent now appear temporary. Opinions that once disturbed you begin to lose their power. You realize that not every comment requires a reaction, and not every challenge requires confrontation. This awareness creates space in your mind, space for calm thinking, creativity, and genuine happiness. Letting go of unnecessary battles does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means developing clarity about what truly deserves your attention. There are moments in life when standing firm is important when values, safety, or dignity are at stake. But many daily conflicts are driven by pride, impatience, or the need for validation. When you recognize this difference, you stop investing your emotional strength in situations that only drain you. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. At first, the weight may seem manageable, but as more stones are added, walking becomes difficult. This is similar to how unresolved arguments, grudges, and mental tensions accumulate over time. They slow your progress and reduce your ability to enjoy the present moment. When you decide to put down these unnecessary stones, your steps become lighter. You move through life with more ease and confidence. Silence and detachment help you release this weight. When you stop reacting to every negative situation, you give your mind the opportunity to rest. You begin to focus more on personal growth, meaningful relationships, and positive goals. Your emotional energy becomes directed toward building rather than defending. This shift changes the overall quality of your life. Another important realization is that constant conflict often keeps you tied to the past. You replay old arguments, imagine future confrontations, and carry resentment that prevents healing. Buddhism encourages living with awareness in the present moment. When you stop fighting battles that belong to yesterday or tomorrow, you become more grounded in what is happening now. This presence brings clarity and reduces anxiety. As your life becomes lighter, your perspective also becomes broader. You start understanding that people act according to their own fears, experiences, and limitations. Instead of reacting with anger, you may respond with patience or simply choose to step away. This does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. It means protecting your inner stability while making wise decisions. Over time, others begin to notice your calm approach. They see that you do not get easily pulled into unnecessary drama. Your quiet confidence becomes a form of influence. Without forcing respect, you naturally receive it. People trust someone who remains balanced even during challenging situations. Your life starts reflecting a deeper harmony, not because conflicts disappear completely, but because your relationship with them changes. Ultimately, when you stop fighting every battle, you rediscover a simple but powerful truth. Peace is not found by controlling the world, but by understanding the mind. By releasing the need to win every confrontation, you create a path toward emotional freedom. You begin to live with less tension, more awareness, and a stronger sense of purpose. In this lighter state of being, you realize that life was never meant to be a constant struggle. It was meant to be experienced with wisdom, patience, and inner balance. And when you finally learn to walk without the weight of unnecessary battles, you move forward not only faster, but also with a peaceful and steady heart. 8. Silence helps you discover your true self beyond noise. In the modern world, life is filled with constant noise. People are always talking, sharing opinions, judging situations, and reacting to everything around them. Social media, conversations, expectations, and comparisons create an environment where the mind rarely gets the chance to rest. In this endless flow of external voices, many people slowly lose connection with their own inner voice. They begin to live according to what others think, rather than what they truly feel. This is where silence becomes not just helpful, but deeply transformative. Buddhist teachings emphasize that self-discovery begins when the mind becomes quiet. As long as you are constantly arguing, defending, explaining, and reacting, your attention remains focused on the outer world. You become busy managing impressions instead of understanding your own thoughts and emotions. Silence shifts this focus inward. It gives you the opportunity to observe yourself without distraction. When you choose silence in unnecessary conflicts, you are not only avoiding tension with others, you are also creating a space where you can meet your true self. In that quiet space, you start noticing your real fears, your real desires, and your real values. You begin to understand what genuinely matters to you and what you were only chasing to gain approval. This awareness is powerful because it allows you to live more authentically. At first, inner silence can feel uncomfortable. Without external distractions, the mind may bring up unresolved emotions, regrets, or doubts. Many people avoid silence because they fear facing these hidden parts of themselves. But Buddhism teaches that true healing and growth begin when we stop running away from our inner experiences. By sitting quietly with your thoughts instead of fighting every external battle, you slowly build emotional courage. As you spend more time in silence, you start noticing how many of your reactions were driven by habit rather than by conscious choice. You may realize that you argued not because the situation was important, but because you felt the need to protect your image. You may see that you explained yourself repeatedly, not because others needed clarity, but because you feared rejection. This realization does not weaken you, it empowers you. It gives you the chance to respond differently in the future. Silence also strengthens your intuition. When the mind is not overwhelmed by noise, it becomes more sensitive to subtle insights. You begin to sense which situations deserve your energy and which do not. You learn to trust your inner guidance instead of constantly seeking direction from outside opinions. This inner trust creates confidence that is stable and independent. Another beautiful effect of silence is that it deepens your connection with the present moment. Instead of being trapped in mental arguments about the past or imagined confrontations in the future, you start experiencing life as it unfolds now. Simple things like breathing, walking, or observing nature begin to feel more meaningful. Your awareness becomes sharper, and your emotional reactions become softer. Over time, people who practice silence develop a calm presence that naturally attracts respect. They do not need to prove their intelligence or strength through constant debate. Their stability speaks for them. Others feel a sense of ease around them because they are not creating unnecessary tension. This quiet influence is far more powerful than loud persuasion. It is important to understand that silence does not mean isolation from the world. It means engaging with life from a place of clarity rather than confusion. When you truly know yourself, your words become more purposeful and your actions more aligned with your values. You speak when it is meaningful, and you remain silent when it is wise. This balance creates harmony both within and around you. Ultimately, silence becomes a path to self-realization. It helps you move beyond the roles, expectations, and labels that society places on you. You begin to experience a deeper identity that is not shaken by temporary opinions or external conflicts. In this state, life feels less like a struggle for validation and more like a journey of understanding. When you stop filling every moment with reaction and noise, you discover a profound truth. The person you were trying to defend all along was waiting quietly inside you to be understood. 9. When you stop reacting, you stop being controlled. One of the deepest realizations in Buddhist wisdom is that people and situations can only control you if they can control your reactions. Many individuals believe they are suffering because of what others say or do. They think their pain comes from criticism, rejection, or unfair treatment. But often, the real suffering is created by the way the mind reacts to these experiences. A harsh comment lasts only a few seconds, yet the emotional reaction to it can disturb your peace for hours, days, or even years. When you react impulsively to every situation, you unknowingly give others power over your inner state. Someone raises their voice, and your mood changes. Someone doubts you, and your confidence shakes. Someone misunderstands you, and your mind becomes restless. This pattern creates emotional dependence on the external world. Your peace becomes fragile, easily disturbed by small events. Buddhism teaches that true freedom begins when you understand this mechanism and learn to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. Silence plays a powerful role in breaking this cycle. When you choose not to react immediately, you create a moment of awareness. In that moment, you realize that you have a choice. You can either let the situation control your emotions, or you can remain steady and grounded. This awareness transforms your relationship with challenges. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you become an observer who understands the temporary nature of emotions and conflicts. Imagine a puppet controlled by invisible strings. Every movement depends on the pull of those strings. In a similar way, impulsive reactions act like emotional strings attached to your mind. When others pull them through criticism or provocation, your behavior changes automatically. But when you practice silence and mindfulness, you slowly cut these strings. You regain independence over your responses. You begin to act from clarity rather than from emotional pressure. Buddhist meditation practices focus on observing thoughts and feelings without identifying with them. This practice reveals an important truth. Emotions arise and pass away like waves in the ocean. They are intense for a moment, but they do not define your true nature. When you understand this deeply, you stop reacting as if every emotional wave is a permanent threat. You allow feelings to exist without letting them dictate your actions. Another important benefit of non-reaction is the preservation of mental energy. Constant emotional responses drain your strength. They create tension in the body and confusion in the mind. When you remain calm instead of reacting, you conserve your energy for meaningful pursuits. Your focus improves, your decisions become wiser, your overall sense of stability increases. People around you also begin to notice this transformation. They may try to provoke you, expecting the usual reaction, but when they encounter calmness instead of conflict, the dynamic changes. Some may lose interest in creating drama. Others may develop respect for your composure. Your silence sends a message that your peace is not easily disturbed. This quiet confidence often influences situations more effectively than aggressive responses. It is important to understand that stopping reaction does not mean suppressing your emotions or ignoring real problems. Emotional mastery involves acknowledging feelings while choosing the most constructive way to respond. There are times when clear communication or firm action is necessary. The difference is that these responses come from awareness rather than from impulsive anger or fear. As you continue practicing this approach, you start experiencing a deeper sense of freedom. Situations that once caused intense stress now feel manageable. You become less affected by passing judgments or temporary conflicts. Your mind develops resilience, the ability to remain balanced even in challenging circumstances. This resilience becomes one of your greatest strengths. Ultimately, when you stop reacting blindly, you stop allowing the world to dictate your inner state. You reclaim authority over your thoughts, emotions, and actions. This shift changes the quality of your life. Instead of being pulled in different directions by external events, you move forward with calm determination and self-trust. In this state of awareness, you discover a powerful truth. Freedom is not found in controlling others or controlling life. Freedom is found in mastering your own reactions. 10. Silence turns pain into wisdom and conflict into growth. Every human life includes moments of misunderstanding, criticism, rejection, and emotional pain. These experiences are unavoidable. What truly shapes your character is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it. Many people react to pain with anger, defensiveness, or the urgent need to prove themselves. They try to fight discomfort by arguing louder, explaining more, or blaming others. Yet Buddhism teaches that pain can become a powerful teacher when it is met with awareness and silence. Silence creates the space needed for reflection. When you do not react immediately to a painful situation, you allow yourself to understand it more deeply. Instead of focusing only on who was right or wrong, you begin to observe what the experience is showing you about your own mind. You may discover hidden expectations, unhealed wounds, or fears that were quietly influencing your reactions. This realization transforms pain from a source of suffering into an opportunity for wisdom. In the heat of conflict, the mind becomes narrow. It focuses only on defending identity and protecting pride. Words spoken in such moments are often impulsive and harsh. They create consequences that last far longer than the original disagreement. Silence interrupts this cycle. It gives your emotions time to settle and your thoughts time to organize. When you eventually speak from a calmer state, your words carry more clarity and compassion. Buddhist teachings emphasize that growth rarely happens in comfort. Difficult interactions reveal the parts of us that still need understanding and patience. When you remain silent instead of reacting, you become a student of your own experience. You start asking meaningful questions. Why did this situation disturb me so deeply? What belief or expectation was challenged? What can I learn from this moment? These reflections strengthen emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Silence also allows you to see the humanity in others, even during conflict. When you are not busy defending yourself, you may notice that the other person is also acting from pain, fear, or misunderstanding. This perspective does not justify harmful behavior, but it reduces unnecessary hatred. Compassion begins to replace resentment. You realize that many conflicts are not battles between good and bad people, but encounters between wounded minds seeking security. Another important aspect of silence is its ability to slow down the momentum of negativity. Arguments often grow stronger when both sides react quickly and emotionally. Silence breaks this chain reaction. It introduces stillness into a situation that was becoming chaotic. This stillness can prevent small disagreements from turning into long-term hostility. It preserves relationships that might otherwise be damaged by impulsive words. Over time, practicing silence during painful moments builds resilience. You become less afraid of discomfort because you trust your ability to handle it wisely. Instead of escaping challenges or attacking them aggressively, you approach them with curiosity and patience. This balanced approach transforms life's difficulties into stepping stones for personal growth. Silence also strengthens your inner guidance. When external noise decreases, your intuition becomes clearer. You begin to sense which lessons a situation is offering and what actions align with your deeper values. Decisions made from this calm awareness are more thoughtful and less regretful. You stop reacting to life randomly and start responding with intention. It is important to remember that turning pain into wisdom does not happen instantly. It is a gradual process that requires practice and self-compassion. There will be moments when you still react impulsively or feel overwhelmed. Buddhism encourages kindness toward oneself during this journey. Each experience, even mistakes, can contribute to growth when observed honestly. As you continue cultivating silence and awareness, you may notice a profound change in how you experience conflict. Situations that once felt threatening begin to feel instructive. Emotional wounds slowly transform into sources of insight. Instead of carrying bitterness, you carry understanding. Instead of fearing disagreements, you use them as opportunities to strengthen patience and clarity. In this way, silence becomes more than a coping strategy. It becomes a path of transformation. It teaches you that pain does not have to define you. Conflict does not have to destroy you. With awareness and calm reflection, even the most difficult experiences can guide you toward wisdom and inner stability. Eventually, you realize a powerful truth. The moments that once hurt you the most were also the moments that shaped your deepest strength. 11. Silence builds a presence that speaks without words. There is a kind of strength that does not need loud voices, long explanations, or constant arguments. It is a quiet strength that people can feel even when nothing is being said. Buddhism teaches that when the mind becomes calm and balanced, a person develops a powerful presence. This presence does not come from trying to impress others. It comes from deep self-understanding and emotional stability. Silence plays a central role in creating this kind of influence. Many people believe they must speak more to be respected. They feel the need to constantly defend their ideas, justify their choices, or correct every misunderstanding. They think that silence will make them appear weak or invisible. But in reality, excessive talking often reduces the impact of one's words. When you explain too much, people may stop listening. When you argue too often, your calmness disappears. Respect does not grow from noise, it grows from consistency, clarity, and inner confidence. When you practice silence wisely, your actions begin to speak louder than your words. People observe how you handle challenges. They notice your patience during stressful situations. They see that you do not react impulsively or create unnecessary drama. This quiet behavior creates trust, Others start recognizing that you are grounded and reliable. Without forcing attention, you naturally become someone whose presence carries weight. Buddhist monks often communicate this lesson through their way of living. They may spend long periods in silence, yet their calm energy influences those around them. Their stillness reflects discipline, awareness, and compassion. This does not mean they avoid the world, it means they interact with life from a centered state rather than from emotional turbulence. In the same way, when you cultivate inner silence, your interactions become more meaningful and less reactive. Another important effect of silence is that it helps you listen more deeply. When you are not focused on defending your position, you can truly hear what others are saying. You begin to understand their emotions, fears, and intentions. This deeper listening improves relationships and reduces misunderstandings. People feel respected when they are genuinely heard. As a result, communication becomes smoother and more peaceful. Silence also strengthens your sense of dignity. When you do not rush to respond to criticism or provocation, you show self-control. You demonstrate that your value does not depend on immediate approval. This calm confidence often commands more respect than aggressive arguments. Over time, others may seek your opinion, not because you speak loudly, but because they trust your balanced perspective. It is important to understand that silence is not about suppressing your voice or avoiding necessary conversations. There are moments when speaking clearly and firmly is essential. The wisdom lies in choosing when to speak and when to remain quiet. Words spoken from a calm mind carry far greater impact than words spoken in anger or insecurity. Silence prepares the ground for such meaningful communication. As you continue practicing this balance, you may notice that your social interactions become less exhausting. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself in every discussion. You become comfortable with pauses in conversation. You learn to express yourself with fewer but more thoughtful words. This simplicity reduces misunderstandings and creates a sense of harmony. Another transformation occurs within your own mind. When you rely less on external validation, your self-respect grows. You start feeling secure in your choices, even when others disagree. This inner security makes your presence more stable. People can sense when someone is at peace with themselves. Such peace creates a natural form of influence that does not require persuasion. Over time, silence becomes a teacher that shapes your character. It teaches patience when emotions rise. It teaches humility when pride appears. It teaches clarity when confusion arises. Through this process, your personality evolves from reactive to reflective. You stop trying to control how others see you and focus instead on living with authenticity. Ultimately, you discover that the most powerful communication is not always verbal. A calm expression, a steady attitude, and a compassionate response can convey more wisdom than long arguments. When silence becomes part of your nature, your presence itself becomes a message of strength, balance, and quiet confidence. In this state, you understand a beautiful truth. You do not need to speak loudly to be heard. A peaceful mind creates a voice that the world naturally listens to. 12. Silence helps you detach from the need to be understood by everyone. One of the deepest sources of emotional struggle in human life is the desire to be understood by everyone. We want people to see our intentions correctly, to recognize our goodness, and to agree with our choices. When this does not happen, the mind becomes restless. We begin to explain more, defend more, and argue more. We try to shape others' opinions about us as if our peace depends on their approval. Over time, this constant effort creates inner tension and exhaustion. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the need for universal understanding is an illusion. Every person sees the world through their own experiences, fears, beliefs, and expectations. Even if you explain yourself perfectly, some people may still misunderstand you, not because you failed, but because their perspective is limited or different. Realizing this truth is liberating. It allows you to stop fighting a battle that can never be fully won. Silence becomes a powerful tool in this process of detachment. When you stop trying to convince everyone, you begin to conserve emotional energy. Instead of constantly reacting to opinions, you observe them with calm awareness. You recognize that people's judgments often reflect their own inner state rather than your true character. This understanding reduces the urge to defend yourself unnecessarily. At first, letting go of the need to be understood can feel uncomfortable. The mind may worry about being misjudged or excluded. It may fear losing connections or respect. But Buddhism reminds us that attachment to image is a subtle form of suffering. When your happiness depends on how others see you, your mind becomes fragile. Small misunderstandings can create large emotional storms. By practicing silence and self-acceptance, you gradually develop inner stability that does not rely on constant validation. Another important aspect of this lesson is learning to differentiate between meaningful communication and unnecessary justification. There are moments when expressing your thoughts is important for clarity and healthy relationships. However, trying to explain yourself to every critic or observer often leads to frustration. Silence helps you choose wisely where your words can truly make a difference. This selective communication strengthens both your confidence and your peace. Detachment from the need to be understood also improves your authenticity. When you stop performing for approval, you begin to live more honestly. Your decisions are guided by inner values rather than by fear of judgment. This authenticity creates a sense of freedom. You no longer feel pressured to constantly manage your image. Instead, you focus on growth, learning, and meaningful experiences. Silence also deepens self-trust. When you are not seeking constant reassurance from others, you start listening more carefully to your own intuition. You begin to recognize that your inner understanding is often enough. This self-trust allows you to remain calm, even when opinions around you are conflicting or negative. You realize that clarity about your own intentions is more important than external agreement. Over time, people may notice this quiet confidence. Some may initially misunderstand your silence, interpreting it as distance or indifference, but gradually they see the consistency in your behavior. They recognize that your calmness is not avoidance, but maturity. This realization often leads to deeper respect and more meaningful connections. Relationships built on authenticity are stronger than those built on constant explanation. Practicing this lesson also reduces unnecessary emotional burdens. When you no longer feel responsible for managing everyone's perception of you, your mind becomes lighter. You spend less time replaying conversations or worrying about how you were judged. This mental freedom allows you to focus on personal development and present-moment awareness. Buddhist teachings emphasize that true peace comes from letting go of what cannot be controlled. Others' thoughts and opinions belong to them. Your responsibility is to live with integrity and compassion. Silence supports this perspective by reminding you that not every misunderstanding needs correction. Sometimes clarity emerges naturally through time and consistent action. Ultimately, detaching from the need to be understood by everyone is a step toward emotional independence. It helps you realize that your worth is not determined by external recognition. It is rooted in your own awareness and sincerity. When this realization becomes strong, you move through life with greater confidence and less anxiety. In this quiet state of acceptance, you discover a powerful truth. You do not need to be understood by the whole world to live a meaningful life. Being understood by your own peaceful mind is enough. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, trying to be right, and trying to prove themselves, choosing silence can feel unusual. It may even feel difficult at first. The mind is used to reacting quickly, defending its image, and arguing to protect its beliefs. But through Buddhist wisdom, we begin to understand a deeper truth. Not every situation requires our voice. Some situations require our awareness, some require our patience, and many simply require our silence. When you stop arguing unnecessarily, you protect your peace. When you stop defending yourself all the time, you build inner independence. When you stop explaining your life to people who are not ready to understand, you save your emotional energy. Slowly, your mind becomes lighter. The constant noise of conflict begins to fade. In its place, a quiet strength starts to grow. Silence teaches you to observe instead of react. It teaches you to listen instead of dominate. It teaches you to trust your inner clarity instead of chasing external validation. Over time, this practice transforms the way you experience life. Situations that once disturbed you deeply begin to lose their power. Opinions that once hurt you begin to feel temporary. You discover that true stability does not come from controlling the world around you, it comes from mastering the world within you. This does not mean becoming passive or weak. True silence is not avoidance. It is conscious strength. It is the ability to choose calmness even when conflict is possible. It is the discipline to walk away from meaningless battles and focus on meaningful growth. It is the wisdom to understand that peace of mind is more valuable than winning arguments. As you continue walking this path, people may notice a change in you. Your presence becomes calmer. Your words become fewer but more impactful. Your reactions become thoughtful instead of impulsive. Without forcing respect, you begin to receive it naturally. Without seeking attention, you begin to influence others quietly. This is the silent power of inner mastery. Life will still bring challenges. There will still be misunderstandings, criticism, and emotional moments. But now you will face them differently. Instead of being pulled into every storm, you will learn to remain like the still center of a turning wheel, stable, aware, and grounded. From this center, wise actions and compassionate words will arise when truly needed. Ultimately, the journey of silence is a journey toward freedom. Freedom from unnecessary conflict, freedom from emotional dependence, freedom from the constant need to prove yourself. When you realize that your peace is in your own hands, a deep confidence emerges, a confidence that does not rely on applause or agreement. And in that quiet confidence, you understand a beautiful and life-changing truth. You do not need to win every argument to win your life. Sometimes, the greatest victory is simply walking away with a peaceful mind.